You make that up.
Dublin Urban Renewal. We're reconvening a meeting that we had last week, I think it was. And well, I'm going to call this one to order. We move on.
Sorry. Okay, I'm just going to call you by your last name. Grousman,
Here.
Hamilton, Hartley, Hogsett, Lilly, Maloney is excused, Smalley,
Here.
Sumner,
Here.
Whitaker,
Here.
Woods. She's excused for now. She may be here later. Benawait,
Here.
Connor,
Here.
Daigle.
Present.
Thank you.
Okay. With the introduction of media, but there's none here. Would be a public comment, but there's no public here except ourselves. So let's have a motion for the approval of the minutes from May 8th. Okay, one second. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes from May 8th. All those in favor will have a roll.
Start from the top.
Then we'll just do, yeah, because you're in the do.
We're going to do a show of hands.
Okay.
So those who approve, please raise your hand. If you disapprove, please raise your hand after. Those approve. Okay. Those opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, motion carries.
I'm glad you reminded me of that.
Next
I
item
knew
on
it.
the agenda is the 2023-24 budget review. General fund.
Okay. Just a couple of housekeeping things. Do we need to do the flag salute?
I guess we reconvened the meeting. That's why it wasn't on.
Perfect. Oh, okay, wonderful. I would just like to introduce myself, Tammy Trowbridge, City Finance Director. Thank you all for participating and being part of this. We're going to try and move through our budgets quickly this evening, so don't be concerned. If I'm moving too fast, tell me, or feel free to ask questions. I was joking with everybody that everybody gets one. And use it wisely, but that was just a joke. Really. I do want to clarify that the roles spelled out on page 1 of the urban renewal budget are actually the agency roles. So it says Debbie Hamilton, their chair, and Lisa Woods, vice chair. That's the roles in the agency. Debbie, I'm sorry for the confusion last week. Because you thought it meant of the budget. Oh, okay. Just wanted to clarify that. Okay, so we had Jerry's message. I'm sure you've all read it. And talking about the general fund and that our resources, we've actually used up pretty much the $1 million line of credit that the city had approved. And we're starting to repay that this year if the tax revenues come in as we're hoping. That's part of the debt service fund. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. But if you have, I'm going to have Christy come up because she's the one that laid out the urban renewal budget. I just put it on the page here. And so if you have any questions in terms of what's budgeted for, Christy Gilbert.
Christy Gilbert, Community Development. So pretty much we'll have some of the projected projects for the year will be the ongoing grant facade improvements or business relocation grants that we've been approving, authorizing, taking through the task force and the agency. So we're projecting approximately 275,000 with ones that have been approved and those that we have been working with the businesses on. We then have we'll then have the bank building grant match, which I believe, we're hoping a lot of it comes in this year. We're currently on the roof portion, so it's getting closer to being finished to get the bank building up and running with the grant match funds. And then Everett and Calapooya, the asbestos abatement and building demolition. That's the one over here on the corner of the discount transmission building. And
This way.
downtown parking lot, $250,000 would be budgeted for that project. And then the remaining balances, the cost came in higher, would be out of the city budget. And then water control district, as agreed upon with them when we were approving the urban renewal district, we're budgeting $25,000 to help participate in getting some of their district built. It will replenish the funds that they are losing based on the.
What's the agreement?
So there, because the urban renewal.
So the urban renewal, the TIF financing takes a portion of like 7 different districts funding. Takes a portion of what would have come in of the increase to general fund, the city general fund. It takes money from Sutherland Water Control. Their increase, they don't get the full thing. That goes to the urban renewal. And Jerry had initially promised to them, because they were the only other district that's associated with us in our urban renewal that had a problem with the urban renewal district itself. And so if we, it's 25 years, right? This is the sunset on the urban renewal. So their portion of the urban renewal funds that our urban renewal is going to get instead of them is about $25,000. And so we are just repaying them to help, which will help them with some of their other projects that they were going to do. But so we don't want them to have a deficit because of our urban renewal. So that's where that came from.
All right.
And obviously we've got some, legal notices and administrative costs and things like that, an audit. It turns out an urban renewal agency not only requires an audit, but also an annual report, which is done by a different group of people. So that was a fun thing to find out this last year. So there's a lot of things that are going on in urban renewal that you just wouldn't have any idea about. It's complicated. And so because we've exhausted the $1 million, there will be, Jerry and I will be pursuing other funding sources for the project that we're going to do this year.
How much do we expect to get in this year?
Well, if the plan is correct, so because of a little bit of a snafu on timing in terms of Murphy's property, we believe that there will be 400 and let's see, that'll be in the debt service fund. So if we go over there, there'll be right at $400,000 received by the urban renewal district in this coming year, 23-24, if it's according to plan. We have budgeted conservatively for the first 2 years and been fairly close. It's exceeded our budgeted amount both years, slightly. And as you see that debt service, I'm planning on about 400,000 being repaid back into the general fund to maintain the strength of those ending fund balances. So any other questions?
I noticed when I was looking through there in the year 2021-22, we put $300,000 or there's $300,000 listed there for wetlands mitigation over in the industrial park.
Mm-hmm.
Did we pay that?
Yeah. Yes,
And,
we did.
and where are we on? We don't have the approval yet.
The county received the Department of State Lands approval quite some time ago. We just recently, about 2 weeks ago, received DEQ and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And so we are currently moving forward with the site plan for Sullivan Sanitation.
Yay. Any other questions? So what we do here is we are going to approve the general fund and then these other things that are listed below. So we need a motion to approve the general fund for the Sutherland Urban Renewal. Okay, it's been moved that we approve the general fund budget. And second, is there any discussion about it?
Who second?
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded that that we approve that. Should we raise hands again?
Yes,
Okay, everybody that's in favor of that, raise their right hand. Any opposed?
thank you. Motion carries.
Debt service fund, motion to approve the debt service fund.
I make a motion to approve the debt service fund.
Been moved and seconded that we approve
Seconded.
the debt service fund. All those that, approve that, right? Gotcha.
Mhm.
Okay,
I did, thank you.
Speaking of the microphones.
final one is the 2023-24 budget approval for the whole thing. Need a motion for that, please. Motion to approve? Yes. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the
Bruce and
budget
Debbie.
for 2023 and 24. All those in favor of that, right hand, please.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Motion carried. Okay. Great. So since we were so fast on the draw there, we can say we're adjourned.
The first one, yes.
Well, for the budget, for
For
the.
the urban renewal.
Debbie.
And so we've got 1 minute before we're going to convene for
Debbie.
City of Sutherland budget, and I'd just like to talk a little bit about a housekeeping item. So we have tonight, and then we had on the budget calendar that the subsequent meetings, if necessary, would be Tuesday and Wednesday. As it turns out, there's a planning commission meeting tomorrow evening, and it turns out that we have a few members in this group that are also on the planning commission, I believe. Is that correct? And because we want to make sure that they have a quorum, we would skip tomorrow night. If we don't get it done tonight, we will skip tomorrow night and reconvene on Wednesday night. So just throwing that out there gives us all extra motivation.
My. Okay, Grousman. Hamilton. Hartley is absent. Hogsett.
Here.
Lily. Maloney is excused. Smalley.
Here.
Sumner. Sumner. Whitaker.
Here.
Woods is excused. Benawait.
Here.
Connor. Daigle. Thank you.
Okay, so we still don't have any media here. And we don't have any public other than ourselves. So I need an approval of the minutes from May 8th. The city budget meeting, please.
Make a motion to approve.
By Renee. Any discussion about that? Didn't they get approved by Sean?
That was the.
Do they want the hands again?
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay, so let's vote to approve the minutes from the May 8th, 2023 city budget meeting. All those that approve of that, raise their right hand. Are there any, is there any discussion? Is there any? Anybody doesn't approve that?
Thank you. Motion carries.
Public hearing. Okay,
Yeah, you need to officially call it open.
okay, we're gonna open the public hearing for state revenue sharing funds.
Okay, Budget Committee, Tammy Trowbridge, City Finance Director, and counties and cities that levy property taxes are eligible for periodic distributions from money raised from state taxes on motor vehicle fuels, tobacco products, and alcoholic beverages. These distributions from the state of Oregon are based on formulas that consider population, property taxes per capita, and income per capita. Before a city can share in this money, the governing body must hold at least 2 public hearings, publish notice, and adopt a resolution or ordinance in which they elect to do so. At these hearings, citizens must be given the opportunity to provide written or oral comment on the possible uses of the money. One of the hearings is held by the Budget Committee and the other is held by the governing body. These are Oregon Revised Statutes rules. And what we're doing tonight is holding the first public hearing on those things. And the state revenue sharing, the officer responsible for dispersing funds to the cities shall, in the case of a city located within a county having more than 100,000 inhabitants, according to the most recent federal decennial, that's a weird word, sorry, consensus, disperse such funds only if the city provides 4 or more of the following services, which include police protection, fire protection, street construction, maintenance and lighting, sanitary service, storm sewers, planning, zoning, subdivision control, 1 or more utility services. And we do that. So that is why we are eligible for state revenue sharing. For the current fiscal year, those revenues are projected to be, for the year that we are in, 85,000, which will be slightly less than what we budgeted. But for the new budget year, based on projections from the state, that number is projected to be 115,000.
Okay, any questions? No public comment. Here. So we will now close the public hearing. We'll move on to budget review item, general fund.
Okay. Well, thank you all for being here, Budget Committee. I appreciate your time and effort in going over this document. As you can see, we try to make it specific to the year. You'll notice the lovely picture of our half shell in there and some descriptions of our history. We try to give as much detail as possible without overburdening you with minutia, although a spreadsheet and 130-page document could, absolutely could. Just a note that there will be a few things added to this budget after we approve it. So I'll go over those towards the end. So we've got the table of contents, and right after there, the city budget manager's budget message. And then of course, once you get to page 8, we're talking about just some descriptions of our key achievements and priorities for this year and what the general fund budget looks like, because obviously the total budget is 34 million. But the general fund budget is only 13.4 million. And you will see as we go through this document that there is an increase in personnel services projected, and that's due to several things. We've got wages that'll increase due to union negotiated COLAs, as well as normal step increases. PERS rates are increasing for this year. So you get a 2-year rate from the PERS people, and it is going up again this year. Thank goodness it's not as big of a raise as we've seen on some years. And those rates are actually further back in the book. I will show you exactly where those are. Health insurance rates are going up as well this year, about it was between 6 and 9%. We weren't sure where we were going to land on that. And workers' comp rate has gone up this year for us. So we had a year where we had a few weird little accidents. And so because of that incidents, and a few of them that were the kind that you had to pay out for, our mod rate went from a 0.78 to a 1.41. So that's a significant difference. Thank goodness those things will drop off again shortly. So we're looking forward to that. Given those changes, the personnel services for the entire city will increase approximately 6.84%. Based on the CPI, we're projecting to increase water and wastewater rate as of July 1, based on the CPI for December. That was at 6.1. So I'm not going to read this word for word, but I am just kind of hitting the high points as we go down through here. Note for people to realize that the Oregon property taxes are based on a property's maximum assessed value, and the maximum assessed value cannot increase by more than 3% per year unless there are significant changes to the property. So we try to budget conservatively. Our property taxes are not going to be quite as high. The revenue that we received this year as we had forecasted, it's a small difference, but I attribute that again to the TIF that's going to urban renewal and not quite as many of the new subdivisions that we expected to be up and in place by this year are generating tax revenue yet. So not a big hit, and eventually they will be contributing to our budget. Also got on page 10, let's see, material and services, capital investments on page 11. Break that out, including Ford's Pond and the non-Pharrell plant upgrades. Originally, that should have been done by June. We're projecting it to carry over a little bit because we've had a few hiccups in that schedule, and Aaron will talk about that later. Debt service with our Joe bond. You can see that our population is at 8956 on page 12, and our FTE schedule there, the organization chart, has not changed much. There is a change, and we're going to talk about that a little further in when we get into the budget between city recorder and finance department. So we've had a little personnel rearrange, and we'll point that out a little bit more. That was fun to kind of try and figure out what stayed in city recorder and what moved to finance with HR. So page 13, we've got a vision and goals, and then we've got the strategic plan to address those goals, and those are numbered by the goal they actually address. Hopefully you've all looked at this and this is all familiar to you. I'm just running through it here. Budgeting in the city of Sutherland talks about, normally our budgeting committee would have 14 members. Right now there is one vacancy on that committee, and tonight we're missing a few people, and we still have to have the majority vote of the total people. So we will have to have at least 7 say yes. So just to make sure we get this through, but hopefully if we do our job right, everybody will do that. So that's our goal. Page 19, some fun descriptions and details, and I've added a new chart, which could be incredibly confusing, but it just kind of shows how things work. Thank you. Good. I got carried away with the word capability for flowchart. It's very fun. And the organizational structure. And now we get into numbers. We've got the entire city rolled up there with a $34.7 million budget, which is fairly similar to what it was last year, even though we had non-Pharrell grant or loan proceeds coming in. We have a lot of Ford's Pond, which kind of balanced those out. So we've got a budget summary on page 23 that shows all of the funds together. Beginning fund balance, current year resources, total expenses, ending fund balance, and total expenses. And then the next 2 pages are expanded versions of that. I'm very grateful for this spreadsheet, but I want you to know that if you change one thing, you have to change many things. So it was fun, just saying. Page 26 on the general fund, you will see that that revenue has increased significantly, and it's because of the Ford's Ponds grants and our seismic renovation grants. So both fire and police, you guys have already heard this if you're on the city council, and hopefully maybe the budget committee as well. They've both been awarded a $2.4 million renovation grant to redo their buildings to make them earthquake resistant, or maybe they'll make it through without toppling down. And I'm gonna let them talk about the specifics of those things, but they're planning on doing some other things as well. Those grants are very specific. They wouldn't even let us roll our roof together with theirs. They're like, no, on the police. Their half gets renovated, our half gets whatever we can do, but we can't piggyback, so. You'll see that the personnel services are up over 6% because of all the increases we talked about. We've got, well, let's just get into them. You'll see my charts and graphs on the property taxes on page 27. And a general fund overview on page 28. So we are looking at sustainability this year because we really don't know what costs are going to do. They've been so all over the place that we're really trying to just hold the line on things and not change our structure too much. I will let you know before we even get to parks, one of the considerations that we have been toying with is adding a parks person. It's specifically aimed for parks. And we know that we're probably at the last budget that we can do without addressing that in some way, especially with Ford's Pond coming into fruition. So that will be part of our discussion, how we can get that done and taken care of moving forward. But we did not include that in this year, just knowing that we've had the homeless taking some additional part of our the homeless low barrier camp taking some additional resource out of our parks and facilities budget. And so we just kind of want to see how that all shakes out in terms of funding streams to see how much we have general fund to be able to throw that way. So just wanted to let you all know that is a consideration. So if we look at the revenue detail on page 29, you will see the intergovernmental revenue is up quite a bit, and that's where the urban renewal repayment is planned to come in. Everything else is based on just a percentage increase, looking at where we're going to end up this year and looking at state projections in terms of the shared revenues. Electric franchise, we're expecting those to go up because of that Tesla charging station. It'll be interesting to see how much, but trying to be conservative on that. The garbage franchise fee has gone up. That was one of the council actions. We're seeing quite a bit of net. Anyway, you can see how I've maintained some of them, bumped a few of them based on what we know and the trends that I'm seeing at the last 2 quarters of the year. Ambulance charges for services, pretty much the same. City fee seems to be lower this year, so I lowered my budget. Go down the line here, we've got pretty much standard. I bumped up based on allocations and increased costs, transfers back in from state gas tax, wastewater and water funds, and leaving the cost methodology, allocation methodology approximately the same. So any questions on the resource? Okay, into the expense budget. So mayor and city council, I'm budgeting the same. It doesn't look like we're going to spend the full amount that I had allocated for mayor and council current year. So I consider that the $5,550 will be appropriate for this coming year. City attorney, we're coming in under budget, not a lot, still leaving basically the same, but I've reduced a few places just given the fact that, you know, parks, we should be done with the any kind of, well, we hope the grant, any kind of background work that we've done on those kind of things. Water council, the loan is wrapping up for non-Pharrell. So I, you know, bumped up planning because those people are busy over there and have all sorts of projects going on, and they're going to be the big spenders this year. So we wanted to give them a little bit more. But just trying to stay within friends. You can see the year before we only spent $24,000 in legal fees. So it goes up and down, trying to leave enough there in case there's a, you know, emergency or contingency problem. City manager's office. Bumped up the health benefits, actually added in the HSA payments that we pay for him, because we're gonna be over budget this year, probably by that amount, so that is why that has gone up. Those two items plus workers' comp and PERS. I tried to increase his, we did a budget adjustment earlier in the year for some specific line items in Jerry's categories here because he's on the OCCMA board doing more traveling and things. So I left those things up at that amount, the training and the travel and the office supplies, because he is still on board and it could use additional resources.
City manager, is that what that word is?
So here's a fun one, city recorder and community engagement. I'm sure you all have heard that Diane is retiring as of July 1st. And so there's a little bit of restructuring going on. She's been training Colleen to take over HR, and Melanie is going to have her hands full with full city recorder and community engagement manager. Doing both of those things, but she'll take on the full responsibility of that as of July 1. And so trying to remove the things that went with hiring and firing and those things from the city recorder budget. I did notice there's a couple mistakes where I didn't get the verbiage changed completely. So I will get those corrected before it goes for final adoption. But there's a lot of good information on here about their accomplishment in terms of the recorder, human resources, deputy city recorder, and community engagement. Busy department. You get a lot of activity over there. It's not ever boring in their department. And then the changes we're talking about. And so we're going to go from 2 FTEs to 1 FTE in the new year. And on page 36, you will see that it still says city recorder / human resources at the top and the bottom. And that should be city recorder / community engagement. So trying to figure out what the wage is going to look like, and those pulling out some of these things that you'll see have zeroed here, but they show up in the finance department. There'll be a vacation payout for Diane. So there's a little bit of carryover. It wasn't super clean, like that was all done as of June, and then July, we were just budgeting for one person. So I don't know if you have any questions or comments on that. Hopefully we'll be in line with our projections. If you see the next page, you'll see our workers' comp premiums and then our workers' comp mod rate, talking about where it's going to bump up to. And I think that I didn't get the years changed on the bottom of that mod rate. That jump up is in 2023, actually. So go to finance. Fiscal year accomplishments. We are still switching over phone providers. It's a lengthy process and they're waiting for our phones to come in. Evidently they are backward, but other than that, that's in process. And we just want to continue to provide good service to everybody that we can. So you'll see that our FTE is going from 4 to 5. And our audit has seen a slight bump this year. Financing fees, so our visa processing fees have gone up. And as has our software maintenance and support agreement, we added the HR module to help efficiency. And because with Diane leaving, we're just not sure how big the gap's going to be in HR. So we've provided some tools. You will also see that in community development, where we can add efficiency and software to help us keep our staff numbers down and be more efficient and dot all our I's, cross all our T's. So that's part of that department, and parks and facilities. And I'm going to tag Aaron on this.
Oops.
Good evening, Aaron Swan, Public Works. There's not a lot here on the parks and facilities. You can see that our expenses largely stayed the same. We lowered in materials and services, we lowered the contract services line item 25 to 20,000. Looks like we're not going to get to that amount this year, so Tammy lowered it. I-5 interchange maintenance. Reason a temp service, that's costing us less. If you turn the page, park maintenance has gone up just a bit from last year's, or from this current budget to the proposed budget, and that's to kind of take up some of the slack on the hiring for our parks person. Other than that, everything's pretty much straightforward. If there's any questions?
What is contract services?
I believe so. On the other page, I believe that that's our cleaning service for City Hall and in here and so forth. And they must not. We just didn't quite get to that 25,000. So you can't drop it. Yeah.
Okay. And 25,000 for the I-5 interchange maintenance. That's the one that we have right up here outside of town.
Right, the exit 136.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we just have that's being mowed and all that. That covers that. Any questions?
Yeah, I'd just like to make a quick statement here. We've talked about having a person for Forge Pond, a maintenance person. And when you think about the parks that we have here in the city, of which I think there's about 10. And you think about yourself out on a riding mower, as an example, mowing the grass. And if you think you could do all of the parks at 20 hours a week, keep the mat grass mowed and pull some weeds and empty the garbage and all that sort of thing, that's an impossibility. So what happens is we get people from Aaron that come and they take care of some of that stuff. But we're getting to the point, especially with Ford's Pond, that is a big job out there. And we have, if we didn't have 2 almost full-time free people, volunteers that were working out there, we would never get it done. So, and that doesn't count all the people that are out there pulling weeds and doing all the things that they do because they want it to look nice. So I'm just saying this because I want to be on the record that we have got to get some more people in our parks department. The parks department takes care of all the parks, takes care of City Hall, takes care of the community center, takes care of a lot of stuff. So that's what I wanted to say about that. Anybody have any questions for Aaron at all?
I agree. I think, is there any,
I can speak to that just a little bit real quick. So we have a temporary person who we've hired that we've authorized more than 20 hours, by the way, 32 hours at least. That's still a savings to the city. And it's not just her that does the work. When there's mowing to be done at Forts Pond, I send a public works guy in the big tractor. And Tammy and I are both in agreement that when Forts Pond Park gets online, we agree that we're gonna have to add an additional person onto my staff to be a full-time parks guy, and Public Works will still have to chip in and do some of the heavy lifting there. So we recognize that. I appreciate Larry. He's passionate about the parks and we want them to look good. But we just thought we could. Things are so in flux right now and Fort Pond's not completed and won't be until the fall, which the park season will be waning by then, the mowing and that sort of thing. And so we just felt like it was prudent just to wait one more year and look for this next year. We won't hold back again this in the next budget cycle. You know, and I appreciate what the volunteers do out there. For Fort Pond, what they've been doing with the tree planting and all that. I'm not sure that they won't still have to be involved in some way in that extracurricular stuff. Then
Well, we will be because they would die before they couldn't work out there. I mean, one of those people that is working out there almost full time moved from Roseburg, so he could work at Fort Pond.
right?
That's great.
They have, yes. So thousands of hours or whatever it is.
But we do realize that this is gonna be it's gonna be a big change once that thing is completely up and operational, that we won't be able to kick the can down.
Got to talk in the microphone, Deb.
But thank you.
Sure. Eddie?
Aaron, is there really 10? Is there really 10 parks?
You know, I mean, I guess if you count the pocket park and.
Here, I'll tell you what they are.
Bridge.
Central Park, Central Plaza, the Festival Grounds, Ford Pond, Hartley Park, Red Rock Trail, Triangle Park, which is the one by the Visitor Center, and then City Hall and the library.
Thank you, Larry.
The festival grounds get maintained strictly by the public works guys as well. It's big money.
Well, but I'm talking about parks. I mean, Fort Pond is a big part of it. But I'm talking about parks overall.
Yes, absolutely.
My other question is there somebody that does maintenance on the Plaza Park?
Yeah, we go over there. It's not a real regular thing. It's kind of a low maintenance.
That Friday, and I thought, boy, there's a lot of weeds up here. And I almost felt like, oh,
Some of the backside folks were kind of gonna,
well, they were, but she said she was not,
right,
because I mentioned it to her.
still getting going from the wet season, so I don't want to get.
Okay, so we're moving on to community development and if Christie come up. I do want to just make, besides, I love all of this notation about what they're doing and what they're projecting to do. And so if you have opportunity.
Christie Gilbert, Community Development. So we're pretty much maintaining previous years for our budget. We will have some transition in our department. Brian is retiring and he's not going far. He can't get away from me. But anyway, and then we have a new person coming on June 1st. We've also added in a software that will help us be more efficient at what we do. So when we spend hours and hours researching something, we can enter the information into the computer system, and that way we don't have to do it all over again 6 months later when they come in. We'll have it at our fingertips. And so really there isn't significant changes. We look forward to the upcoming year. So unless you have questions for me.
Any questions? Okay, community development is over to police department.
Hello, Criminal Street Police. So it's pretty much status quo for us as well. It's kind of the theme this year. Pretty much everything in our budget is pretty much status quo or less. There's a couple spots in here where there is quite a jump. That's just because of the increments we have. We have counties as well as matching 60% this year. So you see those increases, and dispatching, down and regional maintenance. And then the other jump that you'll see is of course gas and labor. Because it's built, I don't know, that's also what the gas prices are gonna do. So like for 2025, we'll get to that point. The old days of never seeing the under $5 a gallon, so. We'll see what happens this year. Another addition that we did was for the vacant property cleaning. We added a little bit there because of some of the dilapidated homes and trash and garbage and things that we want to tackle. We were not tackling them as hard this time because of the cost itself. So you have to choose ways of kind of spread it out throughout the city. So and that's pretty much the main changes. Is there any questions about that?
I'd like to talk a little bit about your plans for handling the increase in population. Can you tell me how many reserves do you have?
Currently, we have one.
One. Do you have any in process?
Not right now. We're trying to get some individuals off to field training school and stuff like that, but it's kind of a balance. Reserves do take a lot of time. And then we do have a lot of training that has to go into reserve, plus the officers doing the training. So it takes away from our call load too, which as you can see on the graphs, went substantially up again. So this is the case, the cases in general we took this year over 1,600. Everything's kind of working up, but we're kind of, moving some shells around a little bit and trying to use some technology to do that. We'll probably add some reserves down the line as we go. But that's kind of up in the air to see who can get through back for one, which is usually a challenge.
When are you gonna start the remodel of the department?
So I'm not 100% sure on the hard lines on that. Waiting on contracts. As far as the general, I don't know what's going on the marks where they want things kind of outlined. Let's say June of next year. However, there's some movement in the meantime that has to happen. Because we essentially have to move our whole facility somewhere else. That's gonna take some time. I don't know exactly what that entails, if that's gonna mean that everything has to come out of the building. If that does, it's gonna take a while. And then we have to find the secured location for the things that we do have, like the firearms, the weapons, the ammo, the things that we need to pay attention to.
Vacant property cleaning, what is that?
That's the increase that I just spoke about dilapidated homes, vacant homes that are going to disrepair. If it starts, we go in, it's a long process of abatement, but the end result is we board it up, we clean it up, and we hold the homeowner responsible for it. But sometimes that's challenging, and sometimes we've leveled homes to the ground. So we've done that one time years back, but that was the last resort. That one was pretty dilapidated.
But you can force the homeowner to sell the property in order to.
We can lien it. I can force them to sell it, but we can lien it.
Right.
Do you actually have police officers that do that?
We do.
Really?
We don't clean it. No, we hire. Yeah, we hire whoever's out there that gives us a bid for the actual work. But the police officers do the warrants, so we do all the footwork, and they come in and do the cleanup.
Just mention briefly how much it costs somebody abandons their motorhome on the street.
Luckily, we're doing good with that. It could change at any time, but it could be up to around, depending on the year, depending on biohazards, asbestos, things like that. But it could cost about $6,000 per motorhome if we latch onto it and we tow it. So that's a big problem.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions for Chief?
Oh yeah,
Thank you.
I am back.
Oh, all right.
So this is for the municipal court budget. The only thing that has changed essentially in the court budget would be the prisoner expenses. That went up 6% across the board, like I said, through county. It went from it was 98 something and some change to now it's 104 a night per prisoner. So every time we take somebody to jail, it's going to cost us $104 a night. Questions on that?
They never keep them there anyway.
We're working on it. We're doing okay.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to add one thing to that, also the attorney fee. So our municipal judge, the indigent attorney and our prosecuting attorney had not had, both of actually the municipal judge had taken a pay cut many years ago. And we hadn't revisited that at all. So we negotiated with them a slight increase for this year as well. They've been very gracious and amazing to work with. And Trissy was highly in support of being able to work out a contract with them because they really do a great job. And now fire budget.
Good evening, Mike Lane, Fire Chief. I'll direct you to page 60, which is the fire budget. Materials and supplies are going to go up a little bit. That's mainly due to our student program. We pay a certain amount per term per student to the college. That way we don't classify that as wages for those students. We pay it directly to the college. These students are barely covering their tuition and they're literally starving because they work for us in lieu of that tuition. So we weren't paying them points for a while. That we help me out. We were worried that they were going to classify these kids as employees. So we stopped doing that. We're going to increase their tuition that goes directly to the college. So that's the biggest increase. It's like 25,000 over $27,000 increase. Other than that, most things are relatively the same, up and down just a little bit.
We are budgeting this year for the increase of the wildland staffing grant that they've already received.
We did.
And so you will see that budgeting higher because hopefully we won't have to do a budget adjustment to accommodate that.
And we may, just so you know, we still are participating with the state fire marshal's office on conflagrations. So when we go on a conflagration, the state reimburses for our employees' wages. We have to pay it out, but then Tammy's got to put it back in. So when we get reimbursed and all that, plus we get reimbursed for the apparatus that we send. And that money she's been trying to slide into our reserve fund. So you have to budget for the expenditure, then we're going to get that money back. Any questions?
How many students do we support with scholarship money?
9.
9. And we're just hoping that they'll come to work for you or we're just training them up because.
I really do wish we had the funds to hire a bunch of them because we're like everybody else. I could use more staff in the fire department. However, we are a training fire department. So we spend money on these students. We educate, the college educates them. We train them. Most of them will stay as volunteers for us, but their main goal is to try to go out in the real world and get a job. So we do lose someone.
Yeah. And
we've lost 2 or 3, and I think we're probably ready to lose another one to Roseburg, I think. But that's our job. We're training them and they leave.
But we're using them while we're training them as.
They help us out. We currently, and I don't want to keep your own life. We currently have 1 paid career firefighter on the engine every day. That's supplemented with the students and volunteers when they have time to come full shifts. So we have 1 career guy on the fire engine. So they, in In order to receive the tuition, these students come and work 10 shifts, 24-hour shifts a month, just like our paid people. But we're not paying them a wage, we're paying them a tuition. So they're saving us a ton of money by having,
240 hours a month.
they work 10 shifts a month.
Wow. They're pretty inexpensive then, aren't they?
They're very inexpensive.
So. So you said they, you were up there tuition. They're up there tuition. So is that tuition that was coming out of their pocket, so we're covering more of that for them?
So tuition at Umpqua is not super inexpensive anymore. And we were paying them $2,000 a term. And they can still pay their own, they can go get this money out of Umpqua and use it for whatever they want.
Oh, okay,
Or they can use it for tuition and books.
gotcha.
So it's
Kind of fluid that way.
it's their money, but
Right,
it gets paid to the college. They can go draw it out for whatever reason. If they need $20 for gas, they can go. get
that's what
$20
I
for gas.
wondered how that was really
Yeah.
handled, that they still have that.
$2,700 a draw.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Finance Director again, non-departmental.
Pardon?
Non-departmental.
Non-departmental, I'm sorry. So you'll see in the non-departmental that we've got a 15% increase in insurance costs. Liability and property insurance. Cyber is actually not taking as much of a hit this year. They've had a better year in terms of the cyber insurance market. So this is basically liability and property. And the other things in here, we've got a community notification application that our citizens can register for. We're going to purchase that, and that's split between the fire and the non-departmental budget. And I think that's a Melanie and Brandon Nagar project. So that could be really, really a cool thing for our citizens. And could include weather alerts, emergency operations alerts, fire situation, water issues, city press releases, all types of things. So that would be really fun. And you will see down at the bottom that I have not budgeted for additional funding to the urban renewal out of general funds. So that's just to make that consistent. And the other requirements is basically what our ending funds balance look like. And we have a reserve fund, and I'm going to have,
Ask a question.
sorry, go ahead. Yes.
Leased vehicles, what are those?
That is just one, this Edge out here, the Ford Edge we purchased. Well, we're leasing this. This was the first year, and so that's what that is. We replaced that, what was that we had? That's
Yeah.
Fusion.
small vehicle that most of the gentlemen on our staff couldn't hardly fit into, something a little bit bigger. And Joe, you had a question? Look at you guys go. Oh, wow, nice. Okay, Mills on the police reserve fund.
So for the police reserve fund, for this next year in 2024, the two main additions are 2 new patrol cars. And then we have a new contract that one of our contracts ends for our cameras. And so the new camera systems is increased substantially from the past system that we had. Then again, 5 years has gone by since we had that last contract. But that contract was just December. We just ready to new contract for the 5 years. That covers pretty well. With the patrol cars, I think we were in less than we thought we were going to be this last year, but I don't know what next year is going to bring. Talking to the manufacturers, I think they're going to stop production of some of the cars, which means they're going to be even harder to get. As you can see, we didn't get 2 black cars this year. We got 1 white, 1 black, not by choice. But out of availability. So we'll see what happens this year. So and then hopefully next year.
You're gonna wrap it?
They don't want to do that. They look horrible when they start getting dinged up a little bit. And it's, yeah, I'd rather just spray paint or something. It's kind of more cost effective for the city. So is there any questions on that?
These body cams that you have in here, that's just like a yearly cost, right?
They, yeah, they're contracted as well. These things get expensive when they start getting ruined. And the assurance program that we have with that contract, to replace them for free. They replace all of our docking systems, all of our systems, everything like that. And it all goes into the same evidence software, which the car cameras will, and the body cameras all go in the same system. So it's a really easy system for us to use. Essentially, we turn on the record, we shut them off, and it uploads. And that way it's easier for us to share with the district security. We can share videos with other officers. It's a good way to get information back and forth with other troops as well. So
You actually said you could share that with other fire departments or police departments.
we can,
Yeah.
we can. Yeah, there's a specific invitation that we can send out and they have to accept it. And then we can send it to them as well.
Any more questions? Okay, thank you.
Plane coming back up for the fire reserve fund.
Again, page 66 is the fire reserve fund. We really don't have anything budgeted this year in the fire reserve fund. We have 13,000 as basically a placeholder because we applied for a regional radio grant from FEMA. So if we get the grant, we'll spend that 13,000. If we don't get the grant, we will not spend that 13,000. So it's just basically a placeholder there. Direct you to 2025. That's the engine that council just approved here a week or 2 ago. These things are 2 years in the making, so we ordered it now and we'll spend that money now in 2025. That's all I got.
Okay. Parks and facilities reserve.
Aaron Swan's coming up to talk about.
Guys are really excited. They got a new red mark.
So if you're page 68, that's our parks facilities reserve fund. Page. You can see that we've got 35,000 for pickleball court resurface. That's kind of a placeholder. We don't have an exact number. I think it's probably going to be higher than that, but we're trying to get started on that. Stage cover lights, kind of the same thing. I don't think we have a true bid on that, what those would cost exactly. But we'd like to enhance our half shelter with some lighting, but the groups that don't want or need that. HVAC replacements, that's also a placeholder. We've been told by consultants that all of our HVACs are beyond their useful life, but they're not breaking down yet. So we put a little money in each year because we feel like one of them will go bad, one or two. So we may not spend that either. You can see that the 500,000 for the PV and the fire seismic renovation, that may we may use that. We may get started on that project. As Troy said, he wasn't sure if that was really going to go in this fiscal, but we have some in there in case it starts. We know it won't finish. So the preponderance of that is in the following year. You can see there. And when they do that, we're going to try to spruce up City Hall a little bit. We're going to try to do our half of the new roof as well. And some new pavement parking lots get pretty cracked up. Forge Pond shortfall, just what it sounds like. We hope we don't have to use that. And then the Oregon State Marine Board grant match. We haven't
actually gotten that yet.
We'll be notified there.
Right.
Whether it's successful.
So all those things are just kind of there in case. That's the person facility.
Have we done anything? I know I talked to Ryan about it, but have we done anything to figure out how to stop the sun from shining on the performance that are on the stage?
We're starting at 7 this year, but.
They're gonna start a little bit later. We talked about, we have talked about a shade wall. And then, you know, actively looking at planting some more trees, but that's gonna be a while, so before they have an impact.
They could have moved back, but they chose not to, so.
As it gets on in the afternoon, moving back sort of loses its effectiveness because you know, but when the sun gets down behind the big oak tree and for the train, it gets better, but it is
Pretty hot.
it's a little bit unfortunate, the direction of things. I mean, it had to go there, but we all kind of knew it was gonna be an issue, but
I think it's something we should continue with.
Putting bleachers over on that one side might help too a little bit, as it goes down.
yeah, possibly, yeah.
So I would like to just add one thing, that Ford's Pond shortfall is actually $200,000 that was budgeted out of ARPA as part of our match for those, the preponderance of those grants that are held. So that will actually be used. Hopefully, there won't be anything additional we have to do that. But, you know, Ford's Pond, the Friends also have quite a bit of cash match that they are putting towards this project. And I told Brian I would see if I could walk through the parks construction budget and save him a trip up to here. So just saying, it's pretty straightforward. We've got grants and some general fund money coming in here, and then we've got grants going out. And that 75,000 is the portion that would be our match for that Oregon State Marine Board grant that we're going to be notified this month, June, end of June. So we're budgeting for it optimistically. We know we have the 5 grants and we're rolling on the Ford's Pond. And it's always, you know, I've got money budgeted in this fiscal year because those things are starting just as soon as they can. So there'll be expenditures in June, but the preponderance could happen in July, August, September, I believe. So if you have any questions, Brian will answer those. Yes.
The fire and PD renovation.
Actually, they're 2.4 million apiece. So yes, 4.8. That's
Why not just build a new building?
well, because they won't. They are very specific with their money, not taking any of our money, I don't believe. Is that correct?
This is not enough money?
No, it's all a grant that we wrote for, and they said, here's what, yeah, I know, right? Otherwise you might as well just put them together and get yourself a whole brand new building. Okay. That's it for the general
Okay, that's
fund.
it. So is there any questions on the general fund budget overall that has come up since we started this part? Let's have a motion then to approve the general fund budget as presented and amended. Has it been amended?
Or amended, I think.
Or, well, it's a slash. Okay, presented or amended in the total amount of $13,431,129. We need a motion.
I make that motion if I don't have to repeat all.
Okay,
I second it as stated.
okay. So it's been moved and seconded that general fund budget will be approved at $13,431 and
No, start over.
$13,431,129. Any discussion at all? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Does anybody need a break before we move on to the next section? Are we good?
Yeah, these motions are for the test.
We do.
But I'm just wondering why. Oh, I see what, never mind. A motion to approve the special revenue fund budget as presented or amended in the total amount of $625,580.
Special revenue yet. Yeah, we haven't gotten to that yet.
Oh, yeah, right. Sorry, let's take a break.
You want to take a 5-minute break, come back and we'll finish this thing out?
Okay, so we're back in session again and. we're
By
going
God.
to, have special revenue funds, city manager. Or finance director.
Troy's back there.
Budget Committee, Tammy Trowbridge. So we're moving on into the special revenue fund section. One of the things I do want to just let you know is I'm going to have more charts and graphs in this when it's ready to be adopted, which will include the tourism kind of tracking the trend in tourism fund. So this is the transient lodging tax. Used to be transient room tax. I believe the state has now officially wanted it changed. We're going to try and slowly move over to that, but this is a roll up of that and the library board fund. So the funds that we focus towards those two things. And obviously the tourism is generates revenue. Money comes in from the hotel and the SKP, the RV parks for anybody who's shorter than a 30-day stay. And then we contract 62% of that to the chamber for their tourism promotion. And we also have 40,000 that we're targeting into the Parks Construction Fund for additional tourism development. Towards Pond, Oregon State, you know, we've got a lot of parks. And there's no questions on that. Looking at the library board fund, our library director is here if you have any questions, but as he pointed out, not much has changed on this. They're still running a quality program over there with lots of fun activities going on. They've got a big summer kickoff on the 30th of May, I believe, in the park. Is that correct? And they're just running a great thing. It's been a wonderful benefit to our community to be able to have a volunteer library. There are volunteers.
How many volunteers do you have?
45.
The city runs on volunteers.
Yeah.
Probably.
Library volunteers, we spend about 20,000 hours of volunteer time.
We're very fortunate.
Yeah, we are. Okay, so is there any questions about? Go ahead.
So for this 40,000 budgeted for parks, is that for all parks or just for Forest Pond?
I think it's specifically targeted to go over there into the Forts Pond, the city portion of that.
So it's just for that park.
Exactly. Yes.
Any other questions? Okay, then ask for a motion to approve the special revenues budget as presented in the total amount of $625,580. Sorry.
Move to approve as written.
Okay. Did you get one?
Renee and Sean?
Renee and Joe.
Joe, thank you.
Yeah, they're gone.
Thank you.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the special revenue fund budget as presented in the total amount of $625,580. All those in favor, just raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion carries. General obligation bond.
So general obligation bonds, I believe this was for the library building we got. And so this actually pays off in June of 2025. So we're getting within striking distance. That's kind of fun. And it is what it is. We have a debt payment and building up a little bit reserve there, but very little, and it'll be done and we'll be able to sunset that in a couple of years.
Motion to approve the general obligations on budget as presented in the total amount of $66,500.
I make a motion to approve the general bond fund for $66,500.
Who had it?
Renee?
Gary.
Oh.
Oh,
Renee
Gary,
did?
I saw Gary second, so we did.
It was kind of simultaneous.
Okay, so who's doing it?
Write one down.
Okay,
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the general obligation bond budget as presented in the total amount of $66,500. Indicate a positive vote by using the right hand. Any negatives?
thank you.
Street funds, public works director.
And we start on page 76. I like to go to page 77. It's a lot more clear. And a 5-year capital improvement plan. You can see what we're going to do in this first in 2024. It says sidewalks First Street. That's my sidewalks fund that we move around and work on ADA and all sorts of connectivity. We're going to probably spend most of that on our State Street project and connecting to the parking behind backside, all that stuff. So a lot of that's earmarked for that. We'll take that whole thing out. We'll find a project to do. You can see the Waite Street improvements. That's 230,000, and that's for wetland mitigation and the beginning of the engineering for that project. You can see that in the next year, there's more to be spent on the actual project in subsequent years there. 200,000 Terrace Street upper. We're doing a grinded inlay in this fiscal year that may carry over a little bit. But the upper terrace, it's a little more challenging. There's some slope stuff and it's going to trigger ADA. There's a sidewalk up there. And so that's what that's for. And then 100,000 at the bottom is just pavement management. That's just for another grinded inlay, wherever we choose, and bring it to you guys and you approve. So for a total of 630,000. From the page, we get into materials and services. We're pretty much the same all the way down. No big changes. All the way down. Let's see if there's any questions on that page or the previous page. I can try to answer those. Not move on to page 79, bicycle foot path. Nothing really happening there. I'm just kind of putting away a little bit of money each year. Reconstruction fund is sort of the same. There's not a lot of activity in there. I mean, you can see the 230,000 for the Waite Street engineering down near the bottom. You might also note that there's no exchange funds. If you follow that line out for this year, we do have some available. Tammy made a little note of it up top. We just haven't picked a project for that yet. So in all likelihood, we will spend some exchange funds as well. Next page, 81, SBC fund. No money spent out of there. If you just a quick note, we're saving up in there as well from our SECs, and that's kind of earmarked for when we do need a light out of Dakota Street. We'll have a certain money we need to put toward that. So that's that. Is there any questions on the street? Move. Oh, you have something now. Oh, no, for each one, no.
You do a motion to accept that.
I'm going to.
That's
Okay.
Mhm.
Oh, wait.
Okay. Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to approve the street fund budget as presented in the total amount of $2,162,960. Okay.
I'll second.
Did you get that? Is there?
I saw Joe
that was
made the
Joe.
motion. Who seconded it? I heard you. Who else was doing it?
Who else done there was?
I'm kind of thinking maybe if the person that seconds can raise their hand. I have a
Yeah,
hard
'cause we can't
time.
hear you guys.
Thank you so much. Either one you want.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded at the street funds.
Yeah.
The street funds budget as presented in the total amount of $2,162,960. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Any opposed? Yes.
Thank you.
Water fund.
Water fund, start on page 83. Materials and services broke out better on subsequent pages, so. That first page, I did have a lot for you. Operations as well. Then we get to page 85, and we have the materials and services. It's mostly gonna be the same. We have a couple of small increases. There's a $10,000 increase in non-paral plant maintenance, and we anticipate finishing up our improvements out there, and so we need to get a bunch of those replacement parts on the shelf. Our water supervisor wants to. We need to have an inventory because even those new things fail sometimes. So, the equipment rental, that's kind of a boost. We're going to rent some lifts and some pressure washers and do some reservoir maintenance, tank maintenance this year. So we've budgeted a little more for that. And those are the only notable increases, if anybody has any questions. Oh, yeah. Give me one more page and I'll cover that. Yeah. Maybe a couple pages. And do you have any questions on page 85? Okay, we'll move.
Are you going to Vegas or something on traveling expenses?
What did you do there? Let me see here. Traveling expenses. 3,000. Good. I don't
that
think
much.
we've been sending a lot of guys to trainings, and so those numbers have been pretty low, but we need to kind of get caught up on that. And it is so expensive to send somebody
That's
to a
training.
training and hotel and it's so costly. So, capital improvement plan. This time of year, we have 56,000 for the cathodic protection. And then Joe, we've got our solar bees there. That's the second item in that graph. Are you on? You're on page 86. So yeah, we've got those things on order, and we're not sure exactly when they're going to get here. But we have money in there for that.
Why don't you just mention what that is?
Oh, well, we have a stratification problem up there. We have manganese and some organics. water quality's hard to deal with. And so we're hoping that with these, they're solar powered, there's 2 of them. And they take lower water and pump it up to the top. And eventually it creates this, just a circulation, and it kind of keeps things mixed up and aerated. And we hope that that's going to be right near our intake. And our hope and the theory and the proven, I mean, they're kind of proven in certain places, is that it'll increase it'll make our water quality better, our raw water quality. It'll take less chemicals to treat it. And so we're renting those through this season into our when the water quality is the very worst there, which is in the fall. And then by the first of the year, we'll be able to tell if they helped us. And then we'll go ahead with a purchase on that. That's the plan there. So yeah. Non-parental improvements, as you know, we're doing those the big non-parental improvements out there. But we have 300,000 there, and some of that's for pavement and a new roof that needs to happen out there in conjunction with these. But that's going to come out of not the construction money, but out of our own maintenance fund.
Alley's up the first.
Down below, you've got Alley Street, or Alley south of First. Well, that's a 8-inch water main that we need to replace. It's in kind of a state of disrepair. It's also very complicated. There's some fiber optic in there and stuff. So that's kind of on the books as well. We've been working on getting that engineered for over a year now, but it's so anyway, that's the capital improvement plan. Here, page 87. You can see that you can see all those numbers reflected down in the capital outlay, and then planned improvements. You can see the 1.15 million. That's to finish the actual non-Corel, the big upgrades that we're doing out there. So. That's not in this current budget. We're gonna start to work on that. Discovery and engineering negotiations with Aqua Basin Water, but we don't think that'll probably happen in this fiscal year. But look for next year. We'll definitely probably be throwing some more money at that. Don't forget to talk to me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, that's to me?
No, to Joe.
Oh, it's to
It's to
Joe.
Joe.
I thought I was plenty loud.
Is, yeah. No, it was Joe.
It was Joe.
Sorry, Joe.
That's about it. The next page, 88, the water reserve fund, not a lot going on in there. Beginning fund balance of 306. We have 6,000 in interest, and we're ending fund is 312. And then on the next page, debt service. We're going to speak to the debt service, or maybe we have any questions about the debt service, I guess. Pretty straightforward. We have some loans we're paying out, and that's the end of the. We need a motion then to approve the water fund budget as presented in the total amount of $7,372,500.
Make a motion. That's the water fund, 7,372,500.
Raise your hand, Debbie.
Second.
Moved and seconded
Praise the Lord.
to approve the water funds budget as presented in total amount of $7,372,500. All those in favor, right hand. Any opposed?
Thank you.
Wastewater funds.
Right. So page 92 is where the interesting stuff starts. Those, all those things on the previous pages will be
Well, that's
kind of explained after. So,
interesting.
in wastewater, we did have some little jumps in some things. Chemicals are going up from 90,000 to 105,000. The engineering services, you see a big bump there, and that's because we're required to have a new master plan. And those cost about, I think we budgeted 105,000 for that. So that's why we have that jump there. Inflow and infiltration. We had 40,000 budgeted and we did a little slip lining this year and it was way more than we thought. So we bumped that up a little bit. So we can get a little bit more done. We have to work on that inflow and infiltration every year. It's a DEQ requirement. So sludge disposal took a little bit of a bump. And the testing also went up, although my wastewater guy tells me we've got our testing really working well, and so he thinks we won't utilize that 20,000. Oh, any questions on that materials and services page?
Like the prior years have been like $7,000
On
that permits. Was it? Permits? Yeah,
okay,
and but we keep budgeting 12.
oh, there we go. Okay.
Oh,
Well, we've got a little time to go still, and I'm not sure on that, Larry, what.
and like.
Pass.
But it's nice to have a little bit of cushion, and like I said, we do have a little bit of time left, so I think he is working on. There might be some few more things before the end of this. Surcharge, page 94. We come down to 90, we're gonna take in 20, and it's estimated to spend 25, but I've also been told that a little bit high too, so we won't use that whole 25 on the collection system maintenance. So that's all pretty straightforward.
Construction fund.
The wastewater construction fund, page 95. Really, the only thing we're looking at doing is upgrades to the Church Street lift station for 65,000. Everything else is pretty inactive on that page. You go to the next page, page 96. You'll see our capital improvement plan. We've got 35,000 for a forklift budgeted for this coming year. And you can see that 105,000 now for our wastewater master plan in there. And the Church Street lift station upgrades. All together. Any questions there? And then the debt service.
It is what it is, most of it is for the DEQ loan on the big plant, so it's just as scheduled. That 2012 refunding bond principal, that actually pays off in December of 25, so one third will be dropping off in the next couple of years.
Well, we need a motion to approve the wastewater funds budget as presented in the total amount of $8,874,800.
I make a motion to pass wastewater funds for $8,874,800.
Thank you.
Made and seconded to approve the wastewater funds budget as presented in the total amount of $8,874,800. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Any opposed? And Public Works.
Once again, those first few pages are explained later. I'll go to page 101. That's the materials and services. That we really held the line in there. I don't think I raised maybe $1,000 for small hand tools. Other than that, everything is the same as the previous year. If you go to page 102, our capital improvement plan. The only thing that's this year is we had some money put aside for a replacement road grader. Now that doesn't buy you a new road grader. They're hundreds of thousands of dollars. We thought we might pick one up in a auction, but we've kind of switched directions. We don't think we currently need that. And what we're talking about is taking that 46.5 and putting it toward a new right-of-way mower. A right-of-way mower is really it's 30 years old and it's just constantly giving us grief. And so it's sort of moved to the head of the line on what's important. We get into fire season, everybody wants things mowed, and then we have a breakdown and we're waiting for bearings, and it's just we're always making people mad with that thing. So that's what we'd like to do. Tammy and I have talked about it. Anyway, look for more information later. We'll come to you before we do anything crazy and rash, but we're not buying a new grader or even a used grader. The reserve fund, pretty page 103, nothing really happening there. This is the issues.
Motion to approve Public Works Funds budget as presented in the total amount of $2,226,420.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so everybody. It's been moved and seconded to approve the Public Works Fund budget as presented in the total of $2,226,420. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? Motion carries. All you do is spend money.
Basically, I believe we finished the budget review at that point, and the additional information from that point back is more about personnel and compensation structures, and you can see the historical PERS rates on page 105. Page 106 will be replaced with the new proposed comp plan, which there was a consensus reached by council after Monday night or during executive session on Monday night. So that will be updated and put in here to be adopted by council in June. There's also a glossary and financial policy of the city of Sutherland, which makes for riveting reading when you have time. And if there's no other questions, I'm going to hand it back to you for the rest of your.
Okay, so in this particular case, you're actually going to amend the budget because you're going to have to add some things to it.
No, the budget, the numbers will stay intact.
Okay.
It is just that one page of page 106, which will be, it will reflect that.
Okay.
That was already, that was.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we need a motion to approve the budget as presented in the total amount of $34,759,889. Second by Renee.
Thank you.
Moved and seconded that we approve the budget, total budget for the city in the total amount of $34,759,889. All of those that approve of that, raise your right hand. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
So I think that you've got next
Oh,
on
yeah,
your.
yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Okay, this hasn't changed in the last couple of years. Motion to approve levying the city general operating property tax rate of $5 and $5.6335 per thousand of assessed value.
I make a motion to do that.
Second.
Good.
It's been moved and seconded that we
Thanks,
approve the
Debbie.
levy of the city general operating property tax rate at $5.60, I don't know how to say that. 5.6335 per thousand of assessed value. All those in favor, raise your hand. Any
I would
opposed?
make a motion that we have that written in front of all of us. We could say motions.
Okay, so. the motion carries.
Got it. Thank you.
Motion to levy property taxes to pay general obligation bonds exempt from property tax limitation in the amount of $66,000.
I make a motion that we levy bond.
We levy property taxes to pay general obligation bonds
Levy property taxes to pay.
to pay.
66,000.
Yeah. It's been moved and seconded that we levy property taxes to pay general obligation bonds exempt from property tax limitation in the amount of $66,000. All those in favor, raise your right hand.
Raise your right hand.
Motion carried. What is that?
That actually separates out the fact that we have general
I don't know.
bonds that need to be paid. And it's out of the property taxes, so if you actually have to have a separate motion to set aside that appropriation. Yes.
Continue on.
Thank you. The last one is I need a motion to approve the use of state shared revenues for the purposes proposed in the budget, including but not limited to police, fire, streets, and planning services.
A motion as stated.
Okay. Second? Second over here. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the use of state shared revenue for the purposes proposed in the budget, including but not limited to police, fire, streets, and planning services. All those in favor, raise the right hand. Opposed? Motion carries. That, my friends.
Thank you all so much. Appreciate your time and attention in reading through that document.
I hope you enjoyed it.
Okay.